There are dropshippers making thousands of dollars every single day with a method that is so painfully obvious that nobody else even thinks of doing it. Even though this is by far the most beginner-friendly way of finding a winning product that you can actually scale and start building a consistently profitable business with. That way we can actually see some long-term success in ecom, which is all we want at the end of the day. Instead of being like all these get-rich-quick degens, we're just launching these pump and dump stores that crash and burn after a week. But just between us boys, so you know I'm not talking out of my culo here, I was literally checking my text the other day and I got a screenshot from my boy Rashad, who made over 100K using this exact method. But the reason everyone keeps overlooking this is because you're being told to just find a viral product, create a crappy store with AI, run some ripped ads, spend $200, and you know what? Just call it a day. Then when that test inevitably flops, like it always does, you blame it on the product. It must have been a loser, so you keep testing another product, and then another product. And then 3 months later, you're completely broke and you're putting the fries in the bag. And the reason why this method is so good right now is because you can launch a new product in literally an hour without having a huge budget to test it, and you will have a dramatically higher success rate when done right than with any other method of dropshipping. And you might have guessed it by now, it's apparel dropshipping. Congratulations, kid, you know how to read a title. But yes, clothes. Remember those good old things you used to wear when you actually touched grass and didn't give up on life and started continually wearing the same old pair of poop stained underwear in your bed all day? You can make a ton of money if you know which ones to choose and how to test them the right way. So let me show you how it's done. Now, the biggest reason why you haven't had a winning dropshipping clothing product before is because you keep testing these products like they're tortas at the bar at 3 a.m. You think to yourself, that torta will be a torta forever. So why put in effort getting to know her or creating a workout plan so she can become an Instagram baddie? So you give her the bare minimum, give her a cheesy pickup line and say, hey, I got a box of Krispy Kreme donuts with your name on it back at my place. And if it doesn't work, who cares? I mean, there's a million tortas out there. But the smart dropshippers that are actually making bands look at that torta and see the potential. They're looking at Bitcoin in 2008, and they know if they invest their time wisely into actually getting to know the girl over a few dates, asking some follow-up questions, and of course, cooking and meal planning together, they can turn that torta into an IG baddie that ends up being their wifey. And that's the system that you need to learn if you want to make these products into a winner. Now, the foundation of my system starts with choosing the right products for you specifically, because what most beginner dropshippers are doing is just throwing darts blindfolded, hoping to get a bullseye by hopping onto Temu, hopping onto PP ads, and really just testing any product that looks cool and is already making sales. But if you keep just randomly testing dresses and shirts and shoes without recognizing which ones are consistently making you sales, then you won't actually know what you're good at selling and what you have an eye for. So you have to reframe it in your mind and realize you're not just testing products all willy-nilly hoping something sticks. No, you are dipping your toe into a variety of different pools by testing a few products in all these different sub-niches to find out your specific lane. And the most successful clothing dropshippers are just the ones that found their lane. They tested a bunch of clothing in a variety of different categories and doubled down on the categories that were getting them consistent sales. It's a lot like trying to become a master chef and you enroll into culinary school and you're being directly taught by Gordon Ramsay. So you say, I'm sorry, Mr. Ramsay, but I made you your famous beef Wellington. And he takes a bite and he says, oh, fuck me, it's fucking raw. So you make him a simple burger and he takes a bite and he says, you know what? That actually didn't taste like a donkey's ass. And that's how you find your lane. But there are some subcategories that I personally prefer a lot more than others. Like for me, I don't like to sell hoodies, shirts, pants, a lot of the cheaper clothing items because they tend to have the highest return of around 20%. And it just ends up being a zero-sum game because it eats into all of your profits because the size charts usually aren't the best, which leads to a lot of returns, or they throw it into the wash, it ends up shrinking, and again, you're dealing with a lot of returns. So for me personally, I do love shoes, I do love jackets, I do love even hats because you don't deal with those very common return problems. They're also perceived as higher value products. So you could be selling these $20 shoes right here for hundreds of dollars and build a legitimate brand where you can actually scale. So as an example, if I was choosing men's shoes, I would go into all these different subcategories. There's casual shoes, there's the sandals, there's boots, and I would build a list of a few products from each one of these subcategories, test them, and see which ones are consistently making me sales. And my final 3 criteria points that I evaluate each clothing product with is first off, making sure that it has proven sales validation, which for me is at least $30,000 in sales. So if I hop into Temu, I can just multiply the amount sold by the actual price, or if you hop into Calidata, you can filter it out by products that are only doing 30K minimum, or you can find your product on Amazon and use a tool like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout to get the sales volume over there. And then finally, make sure the perceived value of your product actually meets your margin goals. So in this example, these shoes are going for $50, but when I look up similar products that are actual brands selling this, they do go for $200 plus. So the range is about 50 to 200. So selling these loafers for 99 would be well within my rights. So I need to make sure if I'm sourcing that product, I get it for 3 times less, which is my usual margin goal. So in that case, if I can source it for $33 or less, I have my margins and I would be perfectly fine with selling that product. Now, before we get into the next step, if you want to just shortcut this whole process and get access to all of my resources, I'm talking product page, ad templates, and so much more that I use to scale my dropshipping brands to 6 figures a month consistently, then I recommend clicking the first link in the description and applying to my one-on-one coaching program, where we're the only program that guarantees you'll hit $1,000 a day within 180 days, or we keep coaching you for free until you do. You'll get 5 calls a week with yours truly, where I am going to review your website, every product you choose, and every ad that you make, so you know exactly where you're going right and most importantly wrong, so you can fix that with every product test. And then you also get a one-on-one coach that will answer all of your questions and give you feedback 24/7 on everything that you're doing, so that you can scale to $1,000 a day in the next 180 days. So if you're interested in working with me and getting access to all of my resources, then click the first link in the description and I'll see you inside. So now you built up a solid list of products, but the next step we absolutely have to get right if we're going to make these products a winner is nailing our product page. Because your product page is a lot like a first date. If you don't make a great first impression by showing her that you understand the sidewalk rule and you open her doors, and by the end of the date you tease her that she's probably a bad kisser, so you have an excuse to make out with her in the backseat of your car and eat her neck like a vampire, then you're not going to get a second date. Because you're going to be advertising to impulse purchasers that when they land on your product page, if it's unoptimized like this one right here, where I know the design looks good, but it's missing some key information that your customer needs to see, then they are not going to go over the line and give you their credit card. Now, before I show you my product page template, you may be wondering, what theme should I actually be building these product pages on? Now, for me, I always use Shrine because it gives me the flexibility to test other products, but if you are specifically only testing clothing or any non-problem solving product, I would highly recommend either using Impulse or Prestige. Now, I lean more towards Impulse, which is $400. I get it, it's more expensive, but when you actually look at the product page, it has all the core things you're ever going to need, and this is actually the theme that most 7-figure clothing dropshippers use. And there's really 6 key things that you have to nail down with your product page, starting with your images. So the first step to nailing your clothing product page is make sure that you are optimized for mobile with your images. So for me personally, I make sure there is no empty space and that my images are a little bit more vertical. It's not the typical 1x1, it's more of a 4x5. That way people can see more of the product. Now the next thing, make sure these are high quality. Upscale all of your product images using a tool like Canva's image upscaler or any other tool that you personally like, and then make sure you have a variety of images. So in this example, I have a lifestyle image, I have a white background, and we of course have some zoom ins and up close images so people can really see what the material looks like. Then of course at the very end, I have my size chart, so again we're alleviating any potential objections someone can have. Now if you happen to be missing any of these product images, then make sure you hop onto ChatGPT and upload one of the highest quality pictures of your product, and then specify whatever your target market is as the influencer that should be wearing your product as a typical product page style shot. So in this example, I asked ChatGPT to have a 25-year-old female influencer wearing my product and do a side photo style shot so people can see what the product is in a variety of different angles. So this right here, absolutely perfect. And then I said I want a close-up shot of the product and the details of the fabric, and that looks incredibly detailed and high quality. Then I wanted a front profile shot as well, and we got exactly that. Now when you're testing any dropshipping clothing product, by far the thing that will make or break your test the most is finding the right offer. In fact, you can have the exact same product page for the same product, and just a difference of $5 or $10 in the price could more than double or triple your conversion rate. In fact, I had a student that went from $100 a day to now scaling to over $2,000 a day, just simply because he found an offer that was converting 4 times better on the exact same product with the exact same ads. And all he did was split test $64.99 plus 5 shipping versus $69 with free shipping. So it both adds up to the same price, but that $69 with free shipping had 3 times higher of a conversion rate. So I typically recommend as a base offer, at least be split testing the price for buying 1 unit of whatever you're selling. And then of course, if you have multiple colors, you need to have in your offer some sort of discount if they buy multiple. Typically buy 2 is save 15%, and then buy 3 you save 20%. Now design wise in Kaching, this is typically where I do it. So right here we can go to add swatches, and then for color, as we can see right here, we can do a color swatch breakdown where we have swatches, or we can just do an image of our product as an example. And then you can choose to make the swatches either bigger or smaller depending on what you like. So play around with this, and I highly recommend making it image swatches. Now that's just the tip of the iceberg on one of the main offers I like to do, but if you want to learn all my other ones and how I actually set up my split test, then make sure to bookmark this video after you watch this one to the end. And then the next two things you absolutely need to have on your product page is some solid specifications of the key aspects of your product and your reviews. So when it comes to specifications, the key things here are making sure people know what your shipping times are usually, making sure they know the material, and of course that you have a solid, easy to read size chart that breaks down what size they should be choosing. And then have multiple forms of social proof. So for me personally, I love doing magazine logos. This is from section.store where you just add in the logos of famous magazines. And then of course, have detailed customer reviews with actual images from customers. Or if you don't have those, make sure these are detailed reviews about the specific material and how fast the shipping was. And then one of the major objections people are gonna have is what size would fit me. So in these reviews, you can handle that by saying, hey, I bought a size large and it fits super nicely. Or I usually wear medium, so I ordered that and it fit perfectly. And then the final two things you need to convince these impulse purchasers to buy is having a strong guarantee so they know if there's anything that goes wrong, they can return the product and get another one. And of course, some urgency to take a decision today. So I always have a strong guarantee section that basically says if you don't love the product, then you can get a full return or your money back within 30 days. You can also put this in your accordion menu. And then for urgency, I do two forms of this. Now, the first form of urgency is through low stock. So I use this custom liquid code right here, which basically says only 7 units left in stock to get that idea across. And then that my offer will be ending at midnight. So we have both sale ending soon and that we have low stock. So we really drive the idea home that you need to make a decision today. So if you check the pinned comment below this video, I'll have a link to my highest converting product page template for clothing. So you can easily just plug and play it whenever you want to test a new product to have everything you need ready to go. So once you start using that and filling all the key information that your customers need to see before buying your product, then we can move on to the final step, which is creating your ads systematically to test your product rather than just choosing a few supplier images and calling it a day. Because by far the biggest mistake I see beginner dropshippers make when testing clothing products is just going to their supplier, choosing 2 random images that usually are very similar, and then once they both flop, they just end up blaming the product. I mean, just thinking about this logically, if you had a system where every time you tested a product, you knew there was going to be 4 formats you always tried, and you would make 4 versions of each format, then that gives you 16 tries of finding that one winning ad, which is all it takes to make a product a winner. So the first step to creating winning ads for any dropshipping clothing product is look up your product on Temu and AliExpress, and you will download the best high quality images from a variety of different suppliers because each one of them will have different images that you can test. So the first of the 4 main styles I love to test with is lifestyle images. It's actual people wearing my product out in the real world. So as we can see right here, we have 4 different images of exactly that. So we could test that, or we could go onto our other suppliers where we can see this image of someone on a marina, which also could work as well. And then of course, if you don't have those photos, be resourceful. Use ChatGPT and these AI slaves and tell it, hey, here's an image of my product. I want you to have a full body shot of some influencer, some hunk wearing my product in an exotic location. Now, the next format I love is doing AI background, where you can grab an image of your product, and then if you hop into a tool like Photo Room, you can take this image and of course, add your own unique background. Now, if you don't have any creative bone in your body like moi, what you can do is upload your image into ChatGPT and have it work on some ideas as well for backgrounds that would be unique and get clicks off Instagram. So for me, since I'm selling these boots to some Southern cowboys, I got a nice little farm background, which of course I can get multiple generations of. So when you hop in the background section, then go to AI backgrounds on Photo Room, it'll even give you specific prompts and ideas for what you can do with your product. And don't forget, you can choose multiple images and of course change the background. So really, again, you just want 4 to 5 solid images that you can test with. Now, the third format, which is a must test because it's the one that works the best for me, is doing a white background. And I know it seems counterintuitive because white background doesn't really stand out. I mean, we're looking at this image right here. It's pretty plain Jane. It's the vanilla ice cream of images. But for some reason, the simplicity of a flat lay where no one's wearing the product, it's just on a hanger and you just have a simple white background tends to perform very well. And then for the fourth and final format, this depends on the materials I have available. So for instance, if I have video content that I find off of Amazon or TikTok of my product, I usually prefer to test that. So I'll just find 4 simple videos, usually between 5 to 15 seconds of multiple clips of people wearing my product. But if I don't have that, then the other style I like to try is a collage format like this one right here, where I just group together images that are very similar, usually showcasing the different colors of my product. So both styles can completely work. And if you don't have access to enough images to do 4 different carousel styles, then what you can do is when you're setting up your Facebook ads, you can choose the carousel option and then upload single images of the best image of each color of your product. So now you have my entire 7-figure blueprint for how to test dropshipping products the right way, but there is one final thing. All of this information is completely worthless if you don't know how to set up your campaign the right way on Facebook and know what to do once you actually have a winning ad. Because you don't want to get a winning ad that's making you a few $100s in sales a day and not know how to scale it to thousands of dollars a day. So like this video and spend some time watching this one next so you know exactly how to set everything up and scale once you have your first winner.